Hi, folks. This is Victor Greta Jr. And on this week's Coders, we're going to be talking about a conference called Codestock and some tips for developers who are going to conferences to get the most out of those events. But first, here's some messages from our sponsors.
Telecom Careers, the #1 global telecom and wireless job board, telecomcareers.com. CommScope, thinking beyond today's technology to help you make the best decision for your network and your business.
Hey, everybody. This is Victor with Coders. And this week we're talking to Andrew May. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Victor.
Thanks for joining us. So Andrew here is involved in a local conference that's actually pretty amazing. The speakers list was incredible. The sessions that I heard about were incredible. The session that I did was okay. I think it was average, but overall, an incredible conference for developers here. So tell us a little bit more about what's the core focus of Codestock.
The core focus of Codestock, as almost the name implies, is community driven. What we do is we allow developers from all across the country to submit abstracts, and then we open it up to potential attendees to vote on, to see what they want to see. So anyone can end up speaking. So be careful. If you submit to us, there's a good chance you're going to get selected. So beyond that, part of our mission statement is just the continued education for developers. We would like to expand that every year and bring more and more. Last year, we had 500 attendees. This year, we had 940.
Wow. And for a town this size, that's a significant event because I'm not sure how many developers we have in town, but that's probably the same amount of developers maybe we have in town. I don't know. But no, there's a lot of people from out of the country or out of the state, around the country.
We pulled from the entire Southeast.
Excellent.
So we're talking North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Ohio. And we pulled as far as from Oregon, obviously not in the Southeast anymore, but we're talking nationwide. We pulled people in.
Excellent. So give us an example of like one of the panels that people could hear there.
So there are a lot of Angular.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're into Angular front-end web development, that was a big topic this year. If we're talking panels, there's a lot of entrepreneurial panels this year. What we discovered is a lot of developers are entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And they really want to learn how to do the business side stuff. And guess what? They really don't know how.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And so we brought some panels in to teach about that. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we brought you in. So it's a really diverse range of topics, from everything from Ruby on Rails, .NET, a lot of JavaScript. Every year we're seeing more and more JavaScript. People love JavaScript. In fact, our keynote this year, Scott Hanselman, was really heavy on JavaScript. In fact, he said, if there's one thing you learn, it's JavaScript.
Why do you think that is, though?
It's the assembly language of the web. It's runs everything. JavaScript runs local. You can do so much with it.
Yeah.
If you know JavaScript, half the battle's done.
Yeah. Well, it's also weird because there are a lot of environments that use JavaScript as a basis, and a good example is Unity, which is a game development platform. You can use pretty much, if you know JavaScript, you can jump into Unity and start scripting things very easily. It's not exactly JavaScript, but you can definitely jump in there and get started very quickly.
JavaScript is a great place to start from and jump off. It's a great jumping off point.
Yeah.
It's something that can apply to almost everything in the world.
Well, we're very happy that JavaScript exists, actually, for a number of reasons. Okay, so Codestock was fantastic. I like, as usual, you guys had a website. Did you have an app?
No app this year. We had a web app. And the reason being is we wanted to focus on getting that right.
Yeah.
Next year, we're going to have native apps.
Okay. And that's something that, again, conferences today are not just where you're going and what rooms you're going to be in and all that. It's all part of the experience. It's like what kind of community things are offered. Do people use those? How do people find things? Can people book, through? It's really this crazy sort of thing where you're now like not just an event, you're also providing services.
It is. And it's tough to get everything you want out of a conference.
Yeah.
In fact, there is so much going on in conferences that if you blink, you just miss almost everything.
So what do you advise for people who are going to conferences, maybe for their first time, let's say, what's the best way to like pick and choose amongst all the stuff?
First thing you have to do before you even get there, this is do it at least a week out. Look over the schedule, really pour over those abstracts and decide what ones you want to go to. Importantly, though, pick backups because it's going to happen. Happened at Codestock. You're going to walk into a room that's standing room only. As awesome as the organizers are, we can't always predict what's going to be the most popular talk.
Mm-hmm.
We can guess fairly well, but it's not going to be perfect. It's not an exact science. So if you don't have a backup, you might not get to see a talk.
Yep.
And you're going to lose valuable time.
Yeah, well, or other things happen. You know, I know I've been at conferences and gotten an important phone call because most people that are going these either have obligations. I mean, even if you're an entrepreneur, you've got obligations. What if there's a sales call you got to make or
Absolutely.
whatever? So you get there and you find out I've got a conflict. So it's a good idea to go through, like you said, go through and pick everything. What I like to do is also put it on my calendar manually, even if there's like a calendar link or whatever. I like to put it on there manually just to give myself the specific information that I need, because not everybody forms those correctly. You know, like it doesn't say necessarily the room number or whatever in the invite.
No. So pre-planning is a must. When you actually get there, next key thing, figure out the layout. What I do personally is I pre-scope. So any large conferences I go to, let's say Google I/O,
Yeah.
you're gonna look and see where the rooms are. You're gonna download a map if possible, and conference organizers try and provide that so that way you can see where the rooms are.
Yeah.
Get your orientation and bearings. You can do it before registration. And again, as an organizer, go early to register. Don't show up at the last second. You're going to cause a bottleneck and you're going to potentially miss a session or two. Go early, register early, get the layout of the land, figure out where everything is. That way, when you need a rush from one session that ran late to another session, you can do it and you're not sitting there trying to figure out where that session is.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, does Google, this would be cool. Does Google I/O do Google Street View for all the different areas?
I believe they actually have.
That would be so
It's
awesome.
been a while since it's real funny. I don't actually use their app anymore just because I'm so used to the conference center. I think you are as well.
Yeah.
That we know the ins and outs of it, that we can just quickly go to where we want to go.
Right.
But I actually think they did that.
That's awesome.
I would love to do that here for Codestock, but I think that'd be kind of tough.
That'd be, yeah, well, it's maybe overkill. And that was the thing too. You know, you said get there early to register, and of course, there's usually like this early crush for registration. I've found that it's worth it at events where there's going to be a lot of stuff happening, so you want to get there early. But I have noticed also at really big conferences like CES is a good example, South by is a good example, where the best time to go, and it's sort of like a Disney ride waiting trick, right? Go on the off hours, go on like the weird times, don't go during lunch. Go like I remember I registered one time at South by at like 9 p.m. or 30 minutes before they closed it out and for the night, and there was nobody there. I mean,
that goes for any and every conference. Another huge geek conference I love that's in Atlanta is Dragon Con.
Yeah.
And that is thousands of people. And if you don't time registration right, you're sitting in line for a really long time.
Yeah.
So plan it out. You have to.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. And get an idea. Of course, that's a cool thing with like mapping tools now. You can even see the city that you're going to be in. And a lot of them, you can do fly arounds and you can get the lay of the land so you know what's around there.
Brings up another important part. For anyone who's out of town going to these events, figure out where the hotel is, figure out where the convention center is. This is part of that early planning.
Mm-hmm.
Understand where everything is and look for where the restaurants are around you. Get a good feel of what things are going on around the convention and the conference beyond just the conference. Some cool things might be happening. I'll tell you what, we had the National Cornhole Championship going on right below us at Codestock.
Yep.
A little interesting mix of people, different types of life.
Yeah.
It was fun though.
Yeah.
When people discovered that, some of them ducked down there between sessions and came right back up.
Yeah.
So
Go watch a little cornhole in between
yeah.
sessions and whatnot. Well, yeah, that's the most fun is when you have other conferences that are fun like that are going on. Okay, so what are some other tips for people who are attending? Once they get there, they've got the lay of the land, they're going to some of their sessions. There's a lot of other things besides just sessions, right?
So beyond all that, networking. Bring as many business cards that you can fit in your pockets and wallet, uh, purse, whatever. Stuff it full. I still run out of business cards, and I literally pack myself full of business cards. You're going to network. You're going to miss a session or two, and use that time to start talking to people. Don't be afraid to branch out. Go ahead and just introduce yourself to someone. Say, hey, how's it going? What do you do? They're going to want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Trust me. Developers are chatty people.
Right.
You can't get me to stop. You need to do that networking. It helps you. It helps, if you're an entrepreneur, it helps your business. If you're an employee, it helps you figure out what other people are doing and interested in. It's just an overall good thing. And hey, it helps your mental health too.
That's right.
It's a great thing to connect with people.
That's right. And branch out. A lot of times we go to conferences, we may know one or two people and we gravitate towards them, but branch out a little bit and look for people who are maybe in your wheelhouse that you could talk to, or maybe you recognize a name as an author or something that you've seen written on a blog or whatever, and go up and introduce yourself to those people. I mean, from media to just regular developers, I've found at conferences, people are really welcome to talk about what they love to do. Yeah.
So another thing is branch out on your topics. When you're pre-selecting some of those backups, or even maybe one or two of the ones that you actually go to, branch out on something that you're not used to going to, a different technology. Don't just stick with what you know, because you might find that it's a boring conference.
Yeah.
It might be stuff that you already know.
Yep.
Branch out, learn something new. If not, it was a waste.
Yeah, exactly. I've done that a bunch of times, gambled on something and gone, and it was really, really fascinating.
And it is a gamble. You might have to walk out because it is so high level, and that's fine.
Sure.
It happens.
Yeah. One funny story though about talking to other people. One of the coolest experiences I've ever had at a conference was at Mac Tech Conference, which is held in LA every year. Neil Tickton of Mac Tech Magazine puts this thing on, does a great job. And we all got to go to the Disney studios and see, this was when Wreck-It Ralph came out, and we got to see where they made it and all this. So we got to do a screening, but because we were going to Disney studio, no cameras, no cell phones. And so they made us check our phones at the hotel, and we had to all get on a bus and ride to the studio and back, about a 20-minute, 30-minute bus ride with no cell phones. And it was magical because, here normally, we'd all be buried in Facebook, getting caught up on Twitter or whatever, but we were forced to talk to each other in these buses. And it was the most awesome thing because this group of technologists, stripped of their technology, were actually forced to interact with each other. And by the time the tours were all done, like, we knew so many more people than if we had just been at an event and just kind of like,
That brings up a good point. Put your phone down.
Yep.
Put the phone down, network. It's back to that networking thing.
Yep.
I do have one other interesting thing to add, food. So by the time you're halfway through the conference, we try and feed people something just generic but fun. Yep. Barbecue and a nacho stand. You might not like that. That's part of that prep work. Again, go see what restaurants are around that area. As a conference organizer, I try and make sure that there are restaurants near us, because people are going to look at it and be like, ooh, I don't want that for lunch.
Yep.
It might not serve a vegetarian option that's, pleases everyone. It happens.
Yep.
You're going to want to eat. Bring snacks. I know that sounds silly, but you're going to want to power bar something. You're going to find yourself in the middle of that conference going, I have no energy. I am really tired. What can I do? Bring a snack.
I don't want to pay $15 for a Caesar salad.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. Yeah, absolutely. That also is a networking opportunity, because if let's say you're vegan, although a lot of conferences, especially tech conferences, cater to everyone's particular tastes and diets and whatnot. But let's say that you're at an airport conference somewhere and it's, there's not a lot of amenities around. That's a good time to get a carpool together, do Uber or something like that, or rent a Zip car and say, hey, vegans of the conference, let's get together. Or even reach out to the conference people and say, I didn't notice any vegan options. And if they say, yeah, we don't really have that, then help out.
Reach out to conference organizers. That's another fun little tip. If you don't see something, ask about it.
Yep.
If you don't ask, we're never going to know to add it for the next year. We need that feedback. Don't be afraid you're going to hurt our feelings. We have really thick skin.
Yeah.
We're going to learn from any mistakes we make. So tell us what we're doing wrong. We're actually very open to feedback.
Well, and I think there's so much competition in conferences right now that everybody wants to make the best conference possible. So you're helping them and you're helping yourself when you give them feedback and you tell them, hey, this would be great if you guys did this,
Yep.
And, to the planning thing, I just realized Yelp is like available on everything. I even have it on my crappy little Pebble. So if I can do Yelp on my Pebble, then you guys have no excuse to like not be able to find stuff around you, except when they do put the convention center out in the middle of nowhere or whatever, which for CES works because it's like you got your own little village. But still, it's just behind the strip, so you're kind of like
you can still get out.
Oh,
there.
you can still go. You walk right across the street and then go get drunk, right? It's fantastic.
Then
so
you forget.
That's right. Yeah. But at a real conference, at these developer conferences, like what's another idea in terms of how do you're getting exposed to so much information? How do you take that back with you?
Well, I'm gonna pull back a little bit here. One thing, so you can take everything home with you, is get good sleep. Get sleep both, if it's a 2-day conference, get sleep the night before and the previous. I can't stress that enough. If you're tired, you're going to retain zero knowledge. If you need to take a small 15-minute nap, there's usually little spots around the convention center. And this year I saw a lot of people taking naps because there was a lot of great information.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's absolutely acceptable. So beyond that, take notes. It's okay. We have classroom style settings in a lot of the rooms simply so you can sit down and take notes. And if you didn't get to one of those tables and you're in just normal seats, pen and paper.
Yeah.
Do whatever you can. Take notes, take mental notes. If you feel like pulling your phone out, just typing something real quick to remind you to research a certain technology, that's great. Also, a lot of the speakers are willing to share their slide deck. Go talk to the speakers. They will say, absolutely, here's my slide deck. I will make sure you have it. That helps you remember what they talked about. Beyond that, just talk to the speakers.
Yeah.
They are a wealth of information. They're talking for roughly 60 to 70 minutes. They're only giving you a small bit of knowledge, and they have so much more to give.
Mm-hmm.
Make that connection with them. Going back to that networking.
And buy their book. Don't forget to do that. No. Well, as to the note-taking thing, a lot of people say, well, I know this conference is going to put the videos online. And so what, but I find that like when you're there, there's some sort of weird energy that happens. If you take the note, then it's going to be more valuable. If you do watch it again, then that will spur those thoughts and you can reference your notes.
What I've discovered is the energy and the thought process is better at the time than watching the video later. And ask if they're taking videos.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if they're taking videos.
Oh, sure. Yep.
So even if you see a camera in the room, you need to ask and say, is this session being recorded?
Yeah.
There's a good chance it's not.
Right.
And then you didn't take your notes and
yeah. And even if there is a camera, like you still need to find out. I find very few conferences say up front, we're going to be putting the videos online, probably because they want people to actually attend the conference, not be like, well, I'll just watch it online. But alt conference did that. They were like, but they also have a kind of a free tiered structure, and it works out. But anyway, that's any other final thoughts on going to a conference?
Plan, stay rested, and network and have fun. Go to the after parties.
Yeah. It's honestly, you can do all of this, by the way. What's cool is that most conferences are not like at most an 8-hour thing during the day, right? Like
That's
the
correct.
meat of what you're going to do is 8. So if you think about it like this, you've got 24 hours. You can do 8, 8, 8. You got 8 hours of conference, 8 hours of socializing, 8 hours of sleep. That is completely doable for anybody at a conference, except maybe South by Southwest, in which case bring your Adderall. That's all I can say.
That's the only thing you can do at South
That's
by
right.
Southwest. There's no other options.
Yeah. At CES, just wear a micro shield, whatever,
Plan on getting sick.
hazmat suit. Yeah. Hazmat suit filled with amphetamine. So, all right. Well, Andrew, thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely.
I
Glad to be
appreciate
here.
it. And so for this episode of Coders, we were talking about conferences. Next week, we're going to talk about getting back into programming. We're going to start, we're going to talk more about actual rubber meets the road developer stuff. Thank you for joining us this week. I'll see you next week.
Coders is a production of RCR TV News. To reach Victor Agreda Jr. or to suggest a show topic for Coders, you can reach him on Twitter at Superpixels. For all the latest news on wireless code and the whole world of wireless, check out rcrwireless.com.